Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about how you start a poem. How do I start the process? And I think you're going to think there's some profound answer here, and I think everyone's answer is going to be entirely different. I think the first thing is sitting down, getting yourself into an environment where you're good. Now, I recommend listening to classical or instrumental music to kind of get yourself thinking musically, thinking about sound, getting in the zone, blocking out the distractions around you. Now, when you read your poetry and when you start editing your poetry, it's very important to turn the music off because you want to hear the sound of your poem. Poems are meant to be read aloud. More often than not, I think the mistake people make about poetry is thinking it's silent like reading a prose novel. And I think more often than not, poetry has sound, it has music, it has alliteration, it has assonance, it has all these things. So we're going to talk about all that stuff on the channel. But I think what's so important about music is how it sounds. So first, get yourself thinking musically if you can. Secondly, when you are reading the work that you've done, I want you to turn the music off. But it's really important to just keep the music on and write and get words on the page because you cannot start thinking about fixing your poem before you've got it down on the page. It just doesn't work. But what I do think is we're talking about starting poems today. And I do think it's very helpful to use the backspace button very early on. You know, a lot of people say just get words on the page, and that's very true. Some people need to just get their unfiltered thoughts out on there, just spill it all out there, get everything out, get started, and then you can refine. But what I like to do is I like to have a start that feels right. It's kind of like when you're in a song, you're singing a song, and you started too high or too low, and you can tell at a certain point of the song, you're like, darn it, I started it too high, and that pitch sounds forced at that high point of the song. So I really encourage, if it doesn't feel right, just backspace. And then what I find is I'll a lot of times have two or three false starts. I'll start a poem, I'll have an idea about a poem, I'll start it, and I go, no, that's not really how I want to get into this. Nope. And then either have a phrase or a line that really works, that really jives with me, that I think is really exciting. And then I'm going to just keep going with that. I think it's listening to your flow. There's a difference between getting words on the page and not worrying about being an editor and getting into a flow and working with that flow. Because I think if you start poorly, sometimes I think it can bleed into your poetry. At first, just get words on the page. If you're brand new to it, get words on the page. But I feel like once you start honing in on your craft, you can kind of say, okay, this start isn't the start. I'm not feeling this. And you can toy around with the idea, kind of like a puzzle piece. You turn it around sideways, all different ways to see where it goes. So that's really all I got for you. That to me is that simple. I don't think it's this profound, like complicated thing. I think you want to think musically. I think you want to get words on the page, but I think you want to be really focused on getting into a flow. Once you get into the flow, the whole poem will take care of itself. And if you can't get into a flow, if you have trouble getting into the flow state, just keep practicing, keep writing. There will be poems that come out faster than others. There are poems to me that I have just this idea built up in my head. I sit down, I have to write it down because I like to say I write poems as they come to me. And that's very true. But, you know, if you're going to write a book or you're going to make writing a habit, a lot of it's just sitting in the chair and finding it when it's not quite on the surface. So kind of filter out that first 3 or 4 starts, and, you know, by the 5th or 6th time, I think you'll find the flow state. I think you'll just go with that, and I think you'll make beautiful poetry. I hope this helps. Again, this is deeply personal, and it's probably a different answer for everyone, and I've literally listened to audiobooks. I've read books on how to write, and some advice doesn't work for me, and some really does. So I'm just like anybody else on that. So thank you for checking out the channel, and we're going to have more poetry and poetry tips soon.